Good morning. I wanted to talk about the realities of the uncomfortableness of the OCD recovery journey and how we get caught in the trap of thinking that it's not going to be as painful. The correct word is painful, psychologically painful as we want it to be. We all do it. I did it. Everyone I work with does it. Rob did it. Moman did it. Sam, Jade, all the other moderators. Everyone who comes into OCD recovery, especially when they've been coasting and doing compulsions and avoidance behaviors for a while, it's very easy to think that it won't get bad. But this is a mistake that we all make. So before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button down below. Look for that WhatsApp link to direct message Phil, get you booked in as soon as possible if that's what you're looking for. Again, we work with people all over the world. I can't really think of many countries I haven't worked with. It's actually, I'm very grateful for this opportunity because it really shows me different cultures and I meet different people and I love it. I love a good conversation, regardless of it's OCD or not. So anyway, and if you can't see that, phil@ocdrecovery.com is the email, as I always say. Okay, so there aren't different stages like people say. You'll often hear people say there's a beginning, intermediate, and long-term stage. There are no stages of OCD recovery, just like there's no timeline or deadline. But what there are different phases per se that have massive gray areas. They're not like set lines. It's not like a video game, stage 1, stage 2, where you realize, if you want to, that there's usually more work to be done. This usually comes after a period of coasting. It usually comes after a period of doing a lot of work and then wanting to relax for a little bit. And then you know that you have more work to do. And you're like, crap, I don't want to get back on the horse. Or the very beginning. The very beginning usually brings a lot of really physical, uncomfortable sensations, a lot of physical anxiety sensations, increase in shame and guilt, a lot of physical manifestations of pain. That's anything from GI issues, your gut problems, headaches, blurry vision, heart palpitations, all the other anxiety-based symptoms, pains and aches, cold sweats, sores, and all the other stuff as well. So you're going to get a bunch of different stuff as you're going through the recovery journey. And then it's a constant thing that happens to many, many people, especially in the beginning. And the reason why that happens in the beginning is because not always, but most people, when they first come into the first call, they undermine just how many compulsions they have. So someone will say to me, hey, I think I just have a couple compulsions. Not a chance. If you're coming in to see us and you have chronic OCD, your entire life is consumed with OCD. It's infiltrated your work, your relationships. Like I've heard this from many people. Hey, I have severe harm OCD and existential OCD, but I'm married and there's nothing wrong with my marriage. I don't believe that. The chances of you having very rational perspectives on your relationship, that's not how the disorder operates. That's not to say that those cases don't exist, because they do. They're just a lot more rare than most people believe. So we have to get ourselves to this basis of reality of that it's probably going to take a little bit longer than we want. And people don't like when I say this, but most people, it takes a couple years to really get good at this stuff. That doesn't mean you're chronically suffering along the way. You'll definitely have ups and downs. That's why we call it the roller coaster, as Rob says. But I'm just going to be honest. Most people I'm working with still have a good amount of physical symptoms at the 1 year mark. Most. A lot of people I work with are still having physical symptoms or maybe some small bumps in the road at the 2 year mark, but they're astronomically better. Most people at that point who have put the work in, have practiced acceptance, have broken down worst case scenarios, have read the books a couple times, have no compulsions and avoidance behaviors. Even if their OCD is in the background a little bit, half the day or so, but they're much more comfortable with suffering. Most people are like, I could live the rest of my life like this, or even go backwards a little bit. And that's where that breaking down of that fear comes from. So it does take time to get to that point. But the beginning of the recovery journey, when I say the beginning, I mean anything in the first year. People really don't like hearing that, but you're not going to hear that anywhere else really. I tell people from the first call that you have with me or someone else on the team, the early stages are about 12 months. And the first couple of months are really tough. And we all have to do it. If you want to use the term the rite of passage, per se, we all have to go through the rite of passage to get to where we want to go. So what does that include in the beginning? Let's talk about the first 3 months. Let's push it to even 6 months. The first 3 to 6 months, if you're doing things properly, you're probably going to be more physically anxious or have more chronic symptoms than you've ever had before in your life. Much more. Not a little bit. Some people it's only a little bit, but most people it's a lot. I see it every day in the WhatsApp groups. People I coach and they go, I just saw a post this morning by someone and said, wow, I've really been cutting compulsions and you guys aren't kidding. I feel like absolute shit. And that doesn't last for a day or two, because that's the other trick that we play on ourselves. And we say, oh, this is going to last a day or two. But I know many people who are addicted to dope, to heroin and other strong drugs. And many of my friends, like my really good friend, if I remember correctly, he said he didn't feel even like baseline normality for a couple of years. Like he said the first 6 months, there was like no difference in the way he was feeling from his last Oxycontin and he was doing a lot of Oxycontin, till 6 months. He felt shit the entire first 6 months. And then he felt shit for like a year after that 6 months, but like not as bad. And he felt really good after like 2-3 years. So that's kind of what happens to us when we start cutting these compulsions. And that's what you want to do. When you're reading the books on the reading list, be prepared to be very distracted. It's going to make it very hard to read. You're probably going to have a lot of symptoms, a lot of reasons why you're arguing with the Ellis principles. This doesn't work for me. Just give it a shot. Read the books. I got to turn it around. It's that time of year here where like the leaves are, and like in a week from now, these will all be gone. It's just like absolutely pretty. I've been saying this in the last couple of videos. You walk up to the mountains, you drive up to the mountains. It's just gorgeous. Like, it's just awesome. I've been doing a lot more of these walking videos. I really like them, actually. I think they're really good. If you guys don't like them, let me know. If it's too bouncy, I could do more at the house. I don't mind either way, unless you're not even watching the screen, you're just listening. I did it a lot too when I was driving or something. So yeah, be very prepared for those symptoms to really go crazy in those first couple months. And it is important to cover that. Second is that the reading, like I said, when you're reading the books on the reading list, be prepared to be very distracted. And third, be prepared for new things to pop up a lot. So when I first came in to see Rob, I only came in for sensory motor OCD, primarily blinking, saliva swallowing, but I had many others. I had a tinnitus for about 3-4 months, really bad. Tinnitus, as you say. Someone was joking saying, take it to an American to mess up the way we say tinnitus. It's so true. Americans can always do that. And then when I started to get better from sensory motor, my brain realized I wasn't as scared of noticing these sensations anymore. And remember, I think this is a very important part. I mind, if I was to come back and suffer chronically with OCD again, I would mind that. But it's not at that like, oh my gosh, this has to go away. So it's, a lot of people say like, am I trying to get to a place where I don't care? Yes and no, but it's not in the sense where we're saying, I don't care if that comes back, because that's not true. You do care if it comes back. It's understandable. The suffering is not fun, So the difference is, if it comes back, like a remission of, say, multiple sclerosis or some of these diseases that have remissions, or like I have psoriasis and can have flares, when the flares come back, you have a much more acceptance approach about that. It's much more balanced. So it's not how, social media, you see a lot of stuff where people say, I don't care, the subtle art of not giving a fuck and stuff like that. It's all good and fun, but it's just not the reality of how this stuff actually works. Especially with OCD. So a little bit off tangent there, but it is correlated to that. Okay, so let's say it starts morphing around, okay? Don't take these for hard set rules. These are just random examples. So let's say you read all the books, except for Marcus Aurelius' Meditation, because it's a great book, but it's not not the most important on the reading list. The first 5 are very important, but don't get me wrong, I definitely would read that book. You read all the books, you've cut a lot of your exposures, and now you have a new type of sensory motor. You have a new angle of your harm OCD, or you have a new angle of your POCD, or incest OCD, or false attraction, or your OCD is turned to heat up. This doesn't necessarily mean that something is going wrong. It just means that OCD is like a virus. It's like COVID. When the vaccines came out for COVID, SARS-2, which has been around for over 100 years, by the way, just this variant was quite bad. It wasn't just going to back down. It was going to morph around. It has an innate intelligence. It's a virus. It's a living structure. Okay, it's an organism. OCD has its own kind of innate intelligence to where it's going to be moving the goalpost more and more. So preparing ourselves for these new things. I'm in a place in my life now where I've used those principles of discomfort for changing things, and I've applied those things to many different areas of my life, my career, my relationship, when things go wrong, losing loved ones. I'll give you an example. My in-laws are coming today, and we have a lot of traveling over the next couple months. Like my sister's getting married, and then I have to go away for work again, where I didn't travel for work for like 3 years. Now I'm traveling like 3 total weeks in like 3 months, which is something I never did before. So I'm traveling a lot, which I don't particularly mind, but it's just something that's just off the routine for me. So, but in the past, I would be so much freaked out. But about the in-laws things, they're using my bedroom because our third bedroom is the office that I do all the coaching calls in. So I just moved all my clothes on the ground, and I'm sleeping on the couch for 7 days. And like stuff like that, I've always been moderately good at that, but like that type of discomfort of like sleeping on the couch, it's not the most comfortable couch. All my clothes are in the living room on the ground, like piles of like my underwear and my shirts for work and stuff. And I brought my hamper down there and everything, and I have my book that I'm reading and stuff like that. But that doesn't even cross my mind anymore. Like that stuff, it is what it is. And that's how these principles have really taught me about wearing the life uncomfortability and translating that to other areas of my life. But don't get me wrong, this journey is really tough. It's really, really, really tough. It's not impossible, but it's more than likely going to be one of the toughest things you've done in a long time. Maybe not everyone. We work with people who have stage 4 cancer, or people who have, other really serious pain conditions, or people that have been in and out of war, and people who've been shot or stabbed. So there's a lot of other physical ailments and psychological ailments that people go through with comorbidities of having OCD. But more than likely, going to be one of the longest journeys of your life. And that's just the way it goes. It's not a quick fix. It's not what most people say on social media. They all will make it seem to be a lot easier of a journey. Morning. But it's just not that way. And it's good to highlight that, because what happens is, if we don't highlight that, people end up going, they'll see an article about something like David Beckham having like weird quirks, which David Beckham obviously does not have chronic OCD. And I'll explain this. He has obsessive compulsive tendencies, which most people do. Anyone that smokes cigarettes has obsessive compulsive tendencies, but they don't have obsessive compulsive disorder per se. They don't all have it. Some do, but a lot don't. If people go to if the runners, they have obsessive compulsive tendencies around running, it doesn't mean they have OCD. Do some OCD people use running as a coping mechanism negatively? Yes, but they're not always directly correlated. And that's where that, correlation doesn't mean causation comes in, which is very true in this scenario. So, and then what people do is they're like, wow, like David Beckham's, he's a football player, and, soccer as we call it. And, it's doing so well, and look at all his fame and success. And then you hear stuff like Daniel Radcliffe has Harry Potter. Oh, he made the Harry Potter movies. Daniel Radcliffe doesn't have OCD. If he had OCD, trust me, we would know about it. We would know about it. Someone in the community would know about it. Howie Mandel is a great example. Howie Mandel's OCD is very, very open about his contamination struggles from American Britain's Got Talent, and everything he's done for promotion and stuff like that. So, and that's what really leaves people hopeless. So the journey is going to be very difficult. It's going to be much harder than you think. That's okay. We're here to support you. We're here to guide you, very individual in the coaching calls, and break that stuff down. And that's why we have the webinar services, and they're great too. It brings people together. One of the number one things I like about the webinars. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is actually a perfect walk for like a time perspective. It usually is like a 14, 15 minutes, which works out really, really well, because what I realized was, not that there's anything wrong with it, but life happens. Sometimes when you make as much content as like someone like I do, and I'm sure many people who make content struggle with this, and shoot some stuff down below in this video if you've made it this far. Let me know about some of the content you want to see. I always am taking recommendations. I had a long list for a while. I made a couple good ones that will be coming up. Hopefully they're up before this comes up. What influencers get wrong about anxiety and OCD and stuff like that. So, and just remember, the last thing I want to talk about, I know this was kind of a free-flowing video. I didn't really have a lot planned for this. Rob just said, hey, make a video on this and see how it goes. I think that, one of the best things that ever happened to me was chronic discomfort. It's just such a weird thing to say. I'm very thankful for my discomfort. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I want to thank all of you. I don't do that a whole lot. Thank you for always supporting us and supporting me. Thank you for all the kind words you guys say in the Facebook group. If you're not a member of that, it's almost at 19,000 members. Thank you to everyone in the WhatsApp groups. I appreciate everything all of you do. Support, without any of you, there would be no OCD recovery. There would be no me, and there would be no Rob. And Moment and everyone else at the team, and Phil. And, we do this because we walk this journey. We know what it's like. I mean, I was in the mental hospital. I wanted to kill myself, and, I didn't want to be here anymore. And I was really depressed for quite a long time, and I got really fat, which was fun. I had a really bad video game problem, as I always say. And And yeah, it's hard. It's when I was reflecting yesterday, I was in the cigar lounge and I was reflecting about just how far I've come, and it's one of the driving things makes me do what I do. You know, that's why I like it. So thank you again, guys. A little bit of a soapbox right there, but it's fun to show the realness. I hope you guys enjoy, and as always, have a good day.